24 active cases of coronavirus in Victoria. That's 3 new cases. They're all in hotel quarantine, so no additional community transmission or local cases overnight. Now, testing is a little more involved than it would normally be, so bear with me as I take you through these numbers. 14,612 test results have been received from yesterday. A further 8,000 tests have been processed this morning, so since midnight, so I can't include those in the number, but the real number in terms of results received is closer to 22,500. That'll be reconciled, if not later in the day, then in tomorrow's numbers. So we're doing additional runs, we're doing some fast tracking, where therefore have more tests coming through, and we've not used a cut-off. We're trying to make this a rolling coverage, if you like. What I can also say is there's a further 6,000 swabs that were taken yesterday that are in the lab but have not yet been processed. So that's a long way of saying thank you to many tens of thousands of Victorians who've come forward and got tested. It was a very big testing 24 hours, and I'm very pleased to say that they've all been negative. That is exactly the outcome that we were after. Big community response and no new positive cases. The surge in demand, we're trying to step up to have as shorter wait times as possible, but as I've said to you many times now, it's got to be done carefully. You can have as many extra sites as you want, but they all have to be done in a meticulous fashion. We don't want infection control breaches at a test site of all places. So I'm very, very grateful to all of those who've come forward and got tested, and particularly for those people who've had to wait. We have stood up additional sites, and we don't rule out standing up even more if we need to. Some of the technology we're using at the moment, where people can in real time look and find the wait time at the test site they want to go to, that means they can make an informed choice and go where perhaps a little further away from home, but a quicker testing facility based on demand. We also reach in and talk to people when they're in the queue and maybe direct them elsewhere where there is a shorter queue, but it is the most important thing. Any symptoms whatsoever, get tested, and get tested today. And profound thanks to everybody who's done just that since we asked them to do that, and indeed throughout this global pandemic. I'll ask Brett to speak about genomics in a minute, because that's back and it confirms our working theory. I also just wanted to speak briefly to the effort that's been made by a big team. We've had hundreds of thousands of text messages sent out. All those tests I just spoke about, they've all been processed in really good time. There's been hundreds and hundreds of interviews conducted. This coronavirus detective work is being done in a textbook fashion, and that means it's often behind the scenes, but it's 24/7, and the team are doing a fantastic job, and I'm proud of them and very grateful to them, and on behalf of all Victorians, I thank them. To that end, those very close contacts of the 26-year-old Noble Park gentleman, of which there, after a full reconciliation, 17 of those, all 17 have been tested, 16 results have come back, 1 still in the lab, and all 16 of those are negative. So those that he has spent the most time with during his most infectious period have all, to this point, come back negative. It doesn't mean that they might not test positive at a later point, and that's why them completing the isolation and doing as we've asked them to do is so important. But these are good signs, very good signs that we caught this in good time. We've spared no effort to run this to ground, and whilst there's still days that will be relevant to us, tomorrow it's not over yet, these are in some respects the very best outcomes that we could have hoped for. I just say again, it is critically important to get tested. It's critically important to think back whether you are at any of those exposure sites during the relevant period, and to act accordingly. I'm very, very proud of Victorians. I said late on Wednesday night that Victorians knew what to do, and they're proving that's exactly right. They know that this has to be taken seriously. They know that if we all work together and play our part, then we will run this outbreak to ground, we will contain it, and we will go back to defending that COVID normal with recovery and rebuilding, and that almost normal way of life being protected and preserved for the medium and indeed for the long term.